For English subtitles, press the subtitle button. An intro creature, you always have to look 2 to 3 times because you are not used to it yet. A tiger python piebald. So, slowly nothing that doesn't also exist as piebald, and thus the tiger pythons are beautiful animals. I think piebald is the most beautiful color variant among reptiles. The white and the normal pattern, I find it totally striking. They are still quite expensive. This year they have gone down a few euros in price again, so they are slowly moving in a direction where they become affordable, fortunately. But with the tiger python, it's not just about being affordable. You also need the space. Tiger python, 350 form, so probably only a few can keep them at home. Still, I wanted to show it to you. Super beautiful piebald tiger python for you today. The intro creature. Our topic today is the chicken eater Spilotes, Pullatus, a really very large snake, so Spilotes. The Pullatus can grow up to 3 meters long. What I also find great about the animal is its behavior. It is a diurnal snake that, in contrast to other snakes, it relies less on its Jacobson's organ and sense of smell. The Jacobson's organ is widely regarded as a sense of smell, but it also hunts and looks with its eyes. It looks for prey, looks for enemies. You can see these huge black eyes. The animals really use them to look and to hunt. They stretch their heads up, look around, observe everything. I find the behavior phenomenal. Of course, they also use their tongue on their Jacobson's organ, so it's a kind of interplay. This slow flicking of the tongue and looking around at the same time. It is an absolute hunter, like a raptor. I just find it phenomenal. It fascinates me completely. And today, we want to talk about this snake. Here I have a pretty adult female, 3 to 4 years old, of Spilotes Pullatus argusiformis, one of the 5 subspecies that exist. In terms of its origin, chicken eaters are found almost throughout the entire Latin American continent, starting from Mexico down to the north of Argentina. They can be found in all tropical and subtropical areas of Latin America. The argusiformis occurs in Honduras and Nicaragua, and further up there is the Mexican species, and as mentioned, down to Argentina in 5 different subspecies. In terraristics, they are still relatively rare. I believe that perhaps this Honduras-Nicaragua subspecies is the one that you might occasionally find, but overall, you see very few chicken eaters offered. It is interesting because the species is not overly difficult to keep. In terms of breeding, it is definitely not easy, but it is also not impossible to breed. Yet, in terraristics, there are hardly any chicken eaters to be found. I can't explain why. Over the last few decades, animals have been imported repeatedly. They are not under any species protection, so that does not pose a hurdle for export. Import, but still, I think the problem will still be breeding. It is simply that only a few people succeed in breeding the animals. In terms of keeping, I have already mentioned the distribution area from Mexico to northern Argentina. If we now consider who else is found in that distribution area, it is the boa constrictor. The boa constrictor certainly has a different niche in this habitat, but ultimately it has roughly the same climate. And in terms of size, the boa constrictor is similar, of course significantly bulkier, but similar to the chicken eater. Accordingly, I would keep the chicken eater in a climate similar to that of the boa constrictor. And the terrarium is also suitable for this. We have a boa set. I believe it is called for boas and larger giant snakes. I think this set is perfect for the chicken eater. In terms of size, 1.80 minas to 1.80 mina. Nice and high. You can set it up nicely with branches. Climatically, it also has the typical boa climate, going down at night. Then it is a great terrarium animal that can be kept well in a terrarium. My experience, I must admit, I have not owned many chicken eaters yet. Currently, I have this pretty pair. This is the female. But at least what I have experienced with them here is that they are a well-maintained terrarium snake. In terms of diet, chicken eaters really eat everything. The name chicken eater might be a bit misleading. Perhaps they only eat chickens at most. They eat everything from birds, rodents, and maybe other reptiles in the wild. They eat everything they can handle, and they have this great hunting behavior. When you put a prey animal in the terrarium, they come, look very attentively, start flicking their tongues, and track the food. In the terrarium, you can't see it so well. It would be interesting in a large terrarium. I believe they would really go hunting and crawl after the prey. And as mentioned, a lot happens through the eyes in connection with the Jacobson's organ. So I haven't had a snake in the last few years that had such a great, impressive hunting behavior. That is what impresses me so much about it. It is really something exciting to observe, which you don't quite see in the pictures. On the one hand, they stretch their heads up and really look from above. To perhaps get an overview or to see what is moving down there, or perhaps we can imagine that they peek out from their hiding place in nature or from their tree or bush where they are sitting. What they sometimes do is a kind of head bobbing, a slight movement. I believe this is a form of nervousness, or when they are a bit excited, they tremble a little with their heads. I find it phenomenal. You have to see it. As mentioned before, breeding is possible with these animals. There are occasional offspring, but it is still relatively rare. I think it is important to have a suitable pair. As mentioned, perhaps also with the different distribution areas. It makes no sense if I have an animal from Argentina. Anomalepis are the southernmost chicken eaters. If I want to pair one with a Mexican Spilotes, I think it won't work. So I should have the same subspecies. The stimulation for breeding definitely occurs through the winter dormancy. 2 to 3 months of lowering the temperature to about 20 degrees. And then in spring they start to mate. They are egg laying, by the way. And yes, perhaps for you the challenge, or also to the community, the question is, who knows breeders? Who has perhaps bred themselves? What is your experience? So as I said, what I'm reporting to you here is not based on a huge wealth of experience, but on the little I know and on the pair we currently have. So there are definitely 1 or 2 of you who also have great input. So feel free to post below a little feedback from you. Give a thumbs up if you find these chicken eaters as fascinating as I do. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date. And otherwise, until the next Reptil TV episode, and check out the chicken eaters.